Hello, my bookhos. Welcome to Book Hoarding by Bianca. Today, I'm going to be talking to you about alternatives at JoAnn Fabrics that I've already been taking advantage of, so they exist. There will be bunches of little like asterisks, because a lot of these are going to be not things that maybe you have in your area. But I am hopeful that I will introduce you to other things you can be doing and checking out. If you are a little bit worried about, hey, JoAnn Fabrics is my main place that I get stuff. Hopefully these are alternatives that will be helpful and useful to you. And if you have your own tips, I would love to hear them because these are just things that I've been doing and have been for a while. I would love to hear anything that you're up to, any resources that you have, because I think that we should definitely not gatekeep those. So I want to start off by talking about how I understand that JoAnn is probably the most convenient thing for a lot of people. I also want to remind people that it's historically been kind of to their employees specifically. I think we all also are aware that they've been having lower and lower quality items out for sale, that they have been stocking lower quality stuff, but also they've been doing this whole thing where they have an in-house product that they're trying to like get in people's pockets instead of Dritz, but it's more expensive than Dritz and lower quality than Dritz. I think we can all say that the quilting cotton has gone way downhill in terms of quality. So all I have to say, while I understand that this might be convenient for folks, it's not been the best choice for a while, and I think it's okay to admit that, right? Like, we can admit that the only choice doesn't necessarily mean it's the best choice. I want to talk to you about how I stopped going to JoAnn, and then I will give you the resources that hopefully back up and explain how I did this. First of all, I stopped having sewing emergencies. In my experience, most sewing emergencies are not an actual like 911 emergency. There was a time that I did sew through my finger, but I called the nurse's hotline and I was fine. So I would say my biggest tip in terms of avoiding emergencies is figuring out how to prevent them. And this will come with just getting more experience sewing and understand what your needs are. Here are mine that I noticed I was having. I'd say the biggest one was running out of thread. There are a couple ways that you can solve for this. First being, just buy extra spools of the thread you need. The other thing is just to embrace contrasting thread. I love contrast thread. I actually think it's beautiful. I hate in fashion school where they want you to have dyed to match thread, because I actually think it's really silly. I think there's beautiful ways that we can incorporate contrasting or even complementary. I believe it was Suma Lee who actually said that, like, complementary is also a really cool way to work with like color theory in your work. So I think it's just be a little creative here. And the actual number one reason that I have been able to avoid thread emergencies has been that I just bought a nice little thread variety pack, which I will link to and show a photo here somewhere, yay many years ago from Wawa. I don't even know if they still have it, but I just invested in a thread variety pack. Yes, it is expensive, but yes, it saved me having to be like, I have to go to JoAnn and pay extra for these things that are actually a little bit cheaper over on Wawa, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later. Other fabric emergencies, notions, big one. Don't have enough of X thing. I'm missing this thing. One way that I have avoided some of this was I went to the FIDM scholarship store when it still existed, the student scholarship store. RIP. Sorry to all the students who are dealing with the bullshit happening at FIDM. I once went there and I got one of those big giant bags of buttons, and it was enough of like each different kind of thing that I just have a ton of buttons for a really long time that I am still working through. There are a bunch of like denim hardware things too in that set. So if you can find anything like that, some sewing stores even have that kind of like pre-made sometimes, depending on like where you are, like mom and pop places might have them. Just get a big old bag of buttons. Also, embrace mismatched buttons. Hey, thrift stores might also have big things of buttons, so check those out. I think especially like, I don't know if they've had donations like vintagey things. Collect notions from the things that you're getting rid of. Like if you have something that you're mending or that's completely trashed or whatever, take those buttons off, take off the zippers, take off any hardware that you might need and want for something. In terms of zippers, I just got a variety pack. I actually got like a short variety pack and a bigger variety pack. So I just have whatever I need. Also, get those little kits to make your own zippers and get a spool of the zipper stuff. Yes, it's a skill. It takes time to learn, but it's really helpful if you just want to make your own custom zippers. I am understanding like some of these tips don't work for people who have limited space or maybe limited budget. I totally get it. I'm just explaining that emergencies can be avoided. Speaking of, I will recommend RIT dye or getting comfortable with dyeing things. I know too, in talking about this, like that means that like some people might be like, but I can't easily get my dye at like JoAnn if it goes out of business. First of all, they never have amazing dye stock whenever I've been in personally. But I'd say do yourself a favor and get extra of whatever you're working with. If you're like, I need XYZ for my Padme, get that extra sandstone, friend. Don't wait and say, I don't know if I need the whole bottle of sandstone. Maybe just like half a bottle. If you know you're gonna do a big dye batch that like really is critical that you do it all at one time and it's perfect and you're not okay with any fluctuation, get extra stuff. I will say that RIT dye is harder to get in terms of like overnight shipping and all of that, but you can check out Dharma Trading. They actually have a ton of dye and I heard they ship really, really fast. So I think that's just an alternative if you're looking for like dyeing things. I put dye in here as like a nice little like general thing of, I know some people really rely on RIT dye. Here's some alternative ways to try to get dyeing materials, but also dyeing things and learning how to dye things is a wonderful skill to have in case you're like, oh, this thing isn't exactly what I need. I have to go out to JoAnn and get the exact thing. We know they don't have that stuff anymore. We don't know that they aren't stocking the exact things you need. Learning how to dye is a wonderful skill. It will really help you, I think, make you more creative as a maker. And my last kind of emergency sewing thing that I was noticing within like my own like space was not having enough yardage or trim of a thing. To that I say, buy a little extra. I know that extra yardage of fabric can sometimes be a lot. Sometimes for trim it can be a lot, but I also think if you're budgeting for like, I want to make this beautiful silk dress, you want to make it right. Budget for a little extra fabric so that if something happens, you have it and you are not in a bad position. That's all I'm saying. Like, I definitely am a person who does a lot of stuff on a budget, so I'm not really in the case of like, oh, I need 4 more yards of silk. No, I'm somebody who's like, the silk I got at the thrift store is the amount of silk that I have, and I'm learning to work with stuff that way, if that makes sense. So if you're somebody though who panics about, I need a specific thing to make a specific cosplay or recreation, you need to invest ahead of time in budgeting for a little bit of extra materials to make sure that you have enough just in case. And that's if you have the problem that I do, which is sometimes you're just like, oh, I'm just a little off in yardage or trim. Creative ways that I've not had to worry about that is just embracing contrast panels and things, embracing piecing and things, embracing just being creative, I guess, is really the biggest lesson I have in terms of learning to not rely solely on JoAnn, because I think that too, in the conversation about like convenience culture, we know as consumers that like that means that there's someone that's getting cut out of this along the way in terms of their pay or healthy work environments or sustainability. So like these are things that I'm willing to do and work creatively and learn, because I think that overall it like helps us be better consumers, if that's even a thing. And now here are my numbered tips on how to not have to shop at JoAnn. Here are the places that I go. First, find your local fabric store. This is the first asterisk, I guess, of this, which is I'm aware that a lot of you don't have those anymore. I'm aware that JoAnn and Amazon have hardly put those out of business. But if you do have a local fabric store, go check them out. See what they stock. See what their prices are like. See if they will do special orders for you. If they have like a catalog of stuff, if they don't have it in-house, will they do things like that for you? Remember that you can work creatively with what is available to you. Yes, you can. My second tip, which is my favorite tip, which is a tip that I will scream from the rooftops forever, is that Wawak is your best friend if you sew. Wawak has everything except for lots of fabric. Wawak though has all the notions you need. They have good quality. They've got sales sometimes. They are fantastic. And even their in-house Wawak branded stuff, I've never had flaws with. It's so good. I can't say enough about how good Wawak is. So I'd say if you are not ready to take the full plunge in converting to Wawak, go to their site and order a free catalog for yourself, because that is a wonderful manual just to have on hand. It's multiple pages of beautiful sewing things that you're just like, yes, I need, or Wish list. Treat it as your like Christmas wish list, like we used to when we get like the little toy catalogs in November and just circle the things we wanted. I mean, like I never actually got those, but I've heard people did. I saw them on TV. So treat the Wawa catalog like your personal Christmas shopping list. There's beautiful, amazing stuff in there. Again, I can't say enough about the quality. Their shipping is also so fast. I joke all the time about like placing my order and then just walking downstairs and it's already here. It's really fast. I can't explain to you. It's beautiful. I love them. I will say like the big downside is they don't have a fabric section. They do have like some little like stabilizing things, and some like suiting, like interior, like stuff that you'd use to like use wool or like working stuff up, canvas and stuff. But that's about it. Number 3 on this list is dead stock. What is dead stock? It's pretty much just like the things that are left over from like design houses, from different places that like is meant to go in the dumpster. Typically too, I think, and I could be wrong with this, but I think that's one of those things where they kind of write it off as like a loss sometimes. I know not everywhere is going to have a dead stock place, but I have one in my town, so it's just like a really cool place called Fabrics on Clement. It is beautiful, wonderful. There's an array of fabrics there, and you never know what's going to be there. You're not going to know if there's reliable tons of yardage for something. You just got to go and have fun. But this is, again, to my overall kind of big theme here is learning to work creatively. I think it's made me a better designer, a better sewer, learning to just work within what is at a place. And like, I can hear some people be like, it must all be polyester and all this not natural fiber. Untrue. I have found Harris tweed like stamped. It's over here. It's in this pile of wool that I need to sew this summer. Like stamped Harris tweed there, like with the actual maker's mark on it. I've found beautiful silks there. They have amazing velvets there that I think are silk velvets. I'm not sure. They will, if you ask them to like help you with fiber count, they will like, or fiber type, they will be really down to help. They're really knowledgeable. They're amazing. They're local. They are saving things from the landfill. If you ever come to San Francisco, check them out. There's so many goodies there. I've found Downton Abbey branded fabric there. I can't say enough about dead stock places because you will find designer things there and it's pretty mind-blowing. And did I mention like they're cheap? Like it's really cheap. Like they always are having sales as well. Last summer I did like their 50% off wool sale, which is why I got like a shocking amount of wool because I'm just like, hey man, I'm just gonna be sewing this wool the rest of my life. That's all it is. So after dead stock will come my 4th tip, which is thrift stores. So this is not an all like reliable thing. This is super hit or miss, but I have a certain amount of thrift stores that I've noticed have reliable craft sections. Some of them are really nice and decent. Some of them just a couple notions every once in a while. I have not had good luck with Goodwill. But Savers, I have had amazing luck. I found like a bolt of remnant silk of like 10 or so yards, I think, maybe less, but like there's routinely fabric on bolts when I go to Savers. I found Royal School of Needlework sewing kits there, along with textbooks, like sewing textbooks that like either I've had assigned or seen assigned in other classes. There's a pretty decent section. It always depends on where you are. I've found super affordable sergers. Like I found a serger for like 25 bucks, I think it was, and like a specialty felting machine from Singer. Tons of sewing machines. I'm always seeing sewing machines in a Savers. They can range from like 60 to 20 something. Like I can't explain the pricing, like where it's coming from, but like they are there and they exist and they're pretty cheap. So like the downsides are it's not going to be consistent. You're not going to be able to tell what's going to be there because it's a thrift store. But my secret formula to finding if it's going to be a good spot is looking for the gray-haired ladies. If you're in a community with a bunch of gray-haired ladies, if you see them congregating at that thrift store a lot, if they work there and volunteer there, you're gonna find the craft friends. There are a couple of like other thrift stores or like community, like auxiliary places, and I'm telling you, the gray-haired ladies means craft and sewing supplies. Okay, that's my formula. That's not a secret. Please go find the thrift stores that have it. Okay, You will thank yourself later. Number 5 on my little listy list is community. This might look different depending on where you are, but I know that a lot of places are starting to set up a lot more like community sewing spaces, not just kind of specific to just costuming or just cosplay, but or just quilting. Although I've heard that quilting meetups and stuff, they can have a lot of like swap ability, like having some extra stuff there, and sometimes they'll have like a local quilting guild will have like sales or swaps or whatever. But I've found some really cool community stuff locally with Bay Area Sewists. If you have a local area that does like a frock tales every year, like you might be able to find something like that, or like you have a group that's into doing swaps. I understand that like Facebook groups also kind of exist in this way for some folks, but I know a lot of people are going off Facebook, which is why I'm recommending like, hey, look for actual places that meet up in your community. Bay Area Sewists meets up a couple times a year. They'll do at a local library a fabric swap, a pattern swap. They just did a handmade clothing swap. I have found those super useful, especially being in fashion school. I've been trying to de-stash and failing terribly, but I have picked up some really good patterns, some things that I think I'll be using for class. I know I found some things that I have used in my classwork, which is really, really useful. So find places, find the people, the community local to you that are doing swaps, because that is also a really good way to take part, to find things that you need, to also donate things that you no longer need. And also, yeah, they made off the hookup on like the thrift stores with all the good craft. Number 6 is my most good luck. It's pretty rough out there. I don't know. It's really, really hit or miss, and mostly miss. Craft reuse stores. They don't really exist in a lot of places. I've found some though in my area and in other parts of like California, and they're beautiful. They're lovely. Right now, my favorite place is the Legacy up near Sebastopol, and it is like 3 storefronts worth of just every craft you could imagine there. And it's beautifully organized, and it's not chaos. They do fabric by the pound. They do amazing stuff. They have leatherworking stuff. They've got whole aisles of yarn and wool, just raw wool to do whatever you need to with. And they've got spitting machines sometimes and big looms, and it's beautiful. They have a nice little bit of space that they've taken up, I guess, compared to what they previously had. And it's just nicely organized. Like there's labels for everything. The embroidery floss is all by type and by color, and it's just beautiful. It's beautiful. It's also very cheap. I got like a decent part of a bolt of interfacing for just $1. I think their patterns are all $1 each. I can't say enough about just how good they are. There are other craft reuse stores. I think the biggest tip I will say is like, I know they don't exist everywhere. If you've heard of one existing near you, go check it out, go support it if you can. In my experience, most of them have been either fairly cheap or sometimes a little overpriced, depending on where they are. With reuse stuff, it's hard to curate things, so like it's gonna be super hit or miss if you can find the thing you're looking for. Again, work creatively, have fun with it, be creative, embrace creativity. And in this bucket of like things to understanding that like some places are gonna be way more organized than others. I've definitely gone to places that are also really cool, scrappy if you will, but are not super organized. You kind of have to spend a lot of time there and go through whatever they have and see what you need. But you might have really good luck and find exactly what you're looking for. In the bucket of craft reuse stores, I will just say any kind of reuse store is also a good thing to kind of check out. I think a lot of times people just kind of wholesale donate whatever is left over from certain, like a family member passes or someone moves. There is a thing called the Habitat for Humanity Restore, which I've gone to a couple of times, not only to get like stuff for the house, but also occasionally the couples that I've been to, some of them do have full craft sections where they'll put whatever comes in, they'll put there. But I also think thinking creatively, like if you need a really good sewing table, you will probably find something there, probably fairly decently priced. Looking for any kind of like organizers, any kind of stuff like that like your notions need to go in. You know, I just think thinking creatively about what might be there. I've seen jewelers saws at these places. Looking in the hardware section, sometimes you can just find weird stuff that like really is something you need to help you with organizing. Pegboards is a huge thing for organizing sewing rooms. If you've seen my like sewing room videos, pegboards are really integral to helping me keep everything off the tables and on a wall and also visible, which with my ADHD is very critical to me actually knowing where the everything is. Think creatively, explore what's in your backyard, explore what maybe is adjacent to your backyard. Like some of these places are like an hour or so away from me, but it's a nice cute little day trip or afternoon trip to just be like, hey, I'm gonna grab lunch on my way to this place and then come back and get groceries on the way home. And it was a whole thing. It's a whole to do, but it got things done. I would love to hear your tips. Again, this is mostly a informational video that I like to just put out there as like one thing. I've been kind of trickling these out on Instagram and other places, like these tips, but I wanted to put them all in one place for folks who I know sometimes get a little bit anxious about the idea of their JoAnn Fabric going out of business. And like, this is also not just like a JoAnn Fabric thing. This is like just, even if you don't rely on them, thinking creatively about what you're looking for, really important. This isn't to say like don't shop at JoAnn Fabric. This is just me saying I don't shop there and I'm not in a panic, so here are my helpful tips, friend, to not also be in a panic. You can take them or leave them. You can still shop at JoAnn until it goes under, if it ever goes under. But yeah, I hope this was just helpful. I think that like the biggest thing that I want to do here is just continue to share tips and tricks and the things that I have used in my sewing experience that help me, you know, with budget and other things and working creatively and becoming a better sewer. And I hope that they help you with that. I want to thank my patrons. As always, you are always here for me. You are wonderful, beautiful little bookhos, and I love you most. If you'd like to support me and my frolics and costume design school, you can check out my Patreon, or you can send me a tip on coffee. Either one helps me be able to go to school and afford the atrociously priced supplies. Which again, like this whole video is kind of like, I've had to pay a lot of money for school supplies, and going to reuse stores super saved my ass. With that, thank you for joining me. That was supposed to be a heart. And don't forget to make it so.